Ever wondered how the popular survival show responded to its initial criticisms? Well, let's dive right into it. In the early days, the show faced significant criticism. The main bone of contention was the perceived lack of authenticity. The show, with its host Bear Grylls, was accused of presenting overly staged scenarios. Critics argued that the survival situations were too planned, and the authenticity of Grylls' survival techniques was questioned. The show didn't turn a blind eye to these criticisms. Instead, Discovery and Channel 4 took a proactive approach. They re-edited some episodes, removing elements that appeared too planned. In the re-edited versions, a fresh voiceover was introduced, and a preceding announcement was added. This announcement clarified that some situations presented to Grylls were designed to show viewers how to survive in similar circumstances. However, it's worth noting that 5 episodes from Season 1, which were deemed the most controversial, were never re-released after editing. These episodes, namely the Rockies, Moab Desert, Costa Rican Rainforest, Mount Kilauea, and Desert Island, are no longer available on DVD from Discovery. Following the media criticism in July 2007, Channel 4 took a bold step. They temporarily suspended the show's second season. The channel promised greater transparency in the production and editing of the show. They issued a statement clarifying that the experiences presented by Grylls were not completely unaided solo survival. Grylls often directly addressed the production team, including the cameraman, highlighting that he was receiving an element of backup. Consequently, the Discovery Channel also announced that future airings would be edited to ensure viewers understood that Grylls was not left alone to survive during the production of the show. In response to these changes, episodes in later airings on DVDs and digital distribution now contain a notice at the beginning of each episode. This notice states that Grylls will receive help from the camera crew on occasion, use provided safety equipment to minimize risks, and will sometimes deliberately put himself in dangerous situations to demonstrate survival techniques. So the show acknowledged the criticism and made changes. But was this enough to silence the critics? Let's dive into that in the next scene. Did you know the show was temporarily suspended following the criticism? In the heat of the controversy, Channel 4 put a pause on the show's second season. This was not a decision taken lightly, but it was a necessary step to address the concerns raised by the public and the media. The channel promised to bring more transparency into the production and editing of the show, a promise they were keen to keep. Channel 4 didn't shy away from the controversy. Instead, they issued a statement that aimed to clarify the show's dynamics. The statement asserted that the show never claimed Bear Grylls' survival stints to be solo or unaided. To the contrary, the show often showed Grylls interacting with the production team, including the cameraman, making it clear that he had a backup. But Channel 4 wasn't the only one to respond. The Discovery Channel too took action to address the criticisms. They announced that future episodes would be edited differently, so as not to give the impression that Grylls was left alone to survive. This was a significant change and a clear response to the concerns raised. So, what did these edits look like? Well, for starters, episodes in later airings on DVDs and digital distribution now contain a notice at the beginning of each episode. This notice states that Grylls will receive help from the camera crew on occasion, that he will use provided safety equipment to minimize risks, and that he will sometimes deliberately put himself in dangerous situations to demonstrate survival techniques. Grylls was also seen stating on camera when he received assistance, or when he had to exit the setting for safety reasons. These changes were not just cosmetic. They were a direct response to the criticism and an attempt to be more transparent with the viewers. It was a clear message that the show was listening and willing to adapt. The show's suspension led to some significant changes, but how did Grylls respond to these allegations? Bear Grylls himself had a lot to say about the criticism. The man of the hour, Bear Grylls, wasn't one to shy away from the controversy. He took to his blog to address the criticisms head-on. In a post dated August 3, 2007, he commented on the allegations that the show was staged, and that he was spending nights in motels instead of braving the wilderness. He wrote, "Press accusations of motels and stagings in the show that have been doing the rounds. All I can say is they don't always tell the full story. But that's life and part of being in the public eye, I guess." Grylls was both candid and philosophical in his response, acknowledging the partial truth in the allegations, but also pointing out the complexities of television production and the constraints of being a public figure. He further clarified his stance in an article in the December 3rd issue of People magazine. Grylls stated, "The night stuff is all done for real, but when I'm not filming, I stay with the crew in some sort of base camp." This statement was a clear admission that while the survival scenarios were real, he wasn't out in the wild 24/7. Grylls also made it a point to be transparent during the filming of the show. He openly acknowledged when he received assistance from the camera crew or used provided safety equipment. He was forthright when he had to exit the setting due to safety concerns. These on-camera admissions were Grylls' way of bringing a level of authenticity to the show, acknowledging the reality behind the production while still demonstrating valuable survival techniques. These statements from Grylls provided a personal perspective to the controversy. They showed a man who was aware of the criticism, addressed it, and was determined to keep providing valuable survival insights to his audience. Grylls' openness about the criticism added another layer to the show's response. But what else did they do to address these concerns? The show took transparency to a new level with their making of episodes. As a response to further criticism, the show began releasing behind-the-scenes footage. The audience was introduced to the individuals behind the camera, each with their unique roles and contributions. The safety consultant, a former Royal Marine, was among the many who ensured Grylls' safety during the filming of survival tactics. The crew's commitment to safety and their collaborative efforts in creating the show were openly discussed. In addition, the show made a conscious decision to edit out scenes of Grylls killing animals for food. This move was another testament to the show's commitment to addressing criticism and adapting accordingly. These behind-the-scenes glimpses offered a fresh perspective on the show, highlighting the efforts taken to ensure authenticity while prioritizing safety. This transparency added a new layer of engagement for the audience. The show's response to criticism evolved over time, leading to significant changes in the way it was produced and presented. So, how did the show navigate this path of criticism? Let's recap. The initial backlash led to re-edited versions of some episodes, removing overly planned elements. 5 controversial episodes from the first season, however, were never re-released. The media scrutiny in July 2007 led to a temporary suspension of the second season, with promises for more clarity and transparency in the show's production and editing. Bear Grylls himself addressed the allegations, stating that while some assistance was received for demonstrating survival tactics, the dangerous situations were real. There were also clarifications about his accommodations during filming, indicating that he stayed with the crew when not in front of the camera. The show further addressed the criticism by releasing behind-the-scenes footage from Season 4, introducing the crew, explaining their roles, and discussing safety precautions. This move towards transparency was a significant step in addressing the criticism. Through all this, the show's response to criticism has been a journey of evolution and transparency, shaping the way it is produced and viewed today.